Hello class, we are on page 279. We are learning how to round up decimals. Today's lesson is going to be a very quick lesson, so make sure you are listening carefully and make sure you follow with me as I am giving you examples. As we are rounding decimals, you're going to say, I have already learned this. Is because rounding of decimals is almost the same as rounding to a nearest cent. So when we rounded to a nearest cent, we looked at the hundredths place. For this time, we're not looking at the hundredths place, but we are looking at the last digit. So let's go and look at our rule for rounding of decimals. So the rule says, to round off a decimal, if the last digit of the decimal is less than 5, what you are going to do is just drop that number. But if the last digit is 5 or more, you're going to drop it and then you're going to add 1 to the previous digit. So if it is less than 5, all you do, you just drop that number. If it is 5 or greater, you're also going to drop it, but you have one more step, which is what? Add 1 to the previous digit. Let me go ahead and give you an example to our lesson. So I have 6.38 and 6.32. Let's go and look at our first decimal. We have 6.38. The rule says to look at our last digit. Our last digit in that decimal is the 8. So the rule said if it is less than 5, you drop that number. If it is greater, if it is 5 or greater, I'm going to drop that number, but then I'm going to add 1 to my previous digit. So since 8 is greater than 5, I'm going to drop that number, but then I have another step. My next step is add 1 to my previous digit. So my final answer is going to be what? 6.4. 3 plus 1 equals 4. Let's go and look at our next example. I have 6.32. Let's go and look at our last digit. Our last digit is 2. The rule said that if it is less than 5, what are you going to do? You're just going to drop that number. So let's go and drop that number. And my final answer is going to be 6.3. So as you can see, I look at my last digit and then I follow my rules. If my rule says if it is less than 5, you just drop that number. If it is 5 or greater, you're also going to drop that number, but you're then going to add 1 to your previous digit. Let's go and look at our next example. I have 3.56 and 4.93. You can do this with me as I'm giving you the answers. So 3.56, I look at my last digit. My last digit is that 6. If it is 5 or greater, I'm going to drop that number and then I'm going to add 1 to my previous digit. So 5 plus 1 equals what? 6. So my final answer is 3.6. Let's go and look at our next example. I have 4.93. My last digit is the 3. The rule said if it is less than 5, you just drop that number. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drop that number. And my final answer is going to be 4.9. So make sure you do follow the rules as you're rounding decimals. Today's classwork is going to be page 279, and you're going to do all the sections in page 279. That's sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. Goodbye.